You're listening to Ask When, the podcast. Folks from all walks of life talk about their daily hustle and bustle, living and celebrating life, sharing tips on becoming champions, especially for those who are muscling mental and physical disabilities. Ask When, the podcast, with your host who has mustered over 30 years living with cerebral palsy and going strong. Author and cerebral palsy advocate Wynn Charles. Ask When, the podcast starts right now.
Welcome to Ask When, everyone. Today I have Trista Polo with me, and I'm going to let Trista take it away and explain more about what her podcast is. I think the name is awesome. Spoiler alert, I woke up awesome, by the way. So I am going to let Trista explain more about it, and I will explain why I may be sounding just a little off at the end of the interview. Yes, there's a story behind why I might be sounding just a little off, but we'll save that to the end. And so I'm going to let Trista take it away and explain more about why she created I Woke Up Awesome.
Well, I actually, I Woke Up Awesome is my business, and my podcast is actually the Plate Story. Trista's Plate Story podcast.
I kept saying I woke up awesome. Oops.
No, it's totally great. I love that that's how you see me.
I kept saying I woke up awesome, and I'm like, is that a podcast name or is that something else? Oops. Sorry about that.
No, I love it because that's really who I am in the world. I am awesome, and you are awesome, and we are all awesome no matter what. We get to choose to wake up feeling awesome every single day. I think being awesome and feeling awesome is a choice, and that's actually the name of my coaching business. My podcast is actually sort of more like a passion project, and that's called Trista's Plate Story podcast. And in this podcast, I actually interview people to find out the stories behind their vanity license plates, because I got to thinking that there's probably a story behind why someone would choose a specific license plate. And I'm getting to know the people that are driving around on the road. I'm getting to know what makes them special, about their humanness, what they deal with, what they go through, what's important to them. It's such a powerful storytelling opportunity. But that's my podcast. And I'm just so happy to be here. When I want to thank you so much for having me on your podcast as a guest. I know you've been podcasting for a really long time. Are you on your 10th year already?
I have been doing this since 2010.
That's 10 years. Yeah.
Each. Oh, yes. Each. I am old. I am old at this. I am old.
You're experienced and wise and an expert.
Wise. Well, I'll tell you the story, you guys. If the wise and the expert didn't fall yesterday and crack my head open, thank you very much, and had to go to the ER, yeah, that's what I've been dealing with. So if I sound a little bit off, that's why. That's why
goodness.
Whacked in the
You got whacked in the head
by a piece of wood. Because I wasn't paying attention. And I think the universe has said to me, you have to slow down. You have to slow down. Of course, I don't listen. Listen. I think I'm able-bodied. So therefore, I get what I get. And the universe kind of took the policy yesterday and said, okay, you don't listen, we will teach
We'll make you listen.
We'll make you listen. I'm like, okay, you guys. I'm like, okay. So whack to the head. I
Oh my
got, and I'm like,
goodness.
oh my goodness. And I had to go out to the local ER yesterday. That was an interesting little experience. But
And and are you feeling better now?
I I am, but it took a good 24 hours. I'm still getting over it.
Wow.
It took a good little 24 hours for me to, even though I was conscious the whole entire time. I mean, I could tell you what happened, but I felt as if I got whacked in the head.
Oh my goodness, that's terrible. I'm glad you're
Yeah.
feeling better though.
Well, thank you, and we're still mending it. I'm taking it easy. I'm taking it easy today. Thank you, universe. So, Trisha, if you had a favorite book, what would it be and why would that be your favorite book?
Oh my goodness, you just don't know how hard it is for me to answer this question. I'm a very avid reader and I have a very full Audible account that I listen to on and on. But if I had to choose one, my current and over time, the one that I keep going back to is probably The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I just really love these agreements as a way to stay true to yourself. And I also love the introduction to the book where he talks about that we have all sort of created these agreements with each other, and they're based on society and they're based on things that might not be true to your heart and your soul. But if you can live by these four things, then you can really have power over your future and what you're creating in the world. And so, in case anybody's not familiar with the book or needs a refresher, the four agreements are: be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And I just kind of take all of this in and I look to live a life where I get to be 100% responsible for how I show up. Thus, the I woke up awesome, because I can choose to do that. So I would have to say that's the one I'll share as my one favorite.
One favorite. Okay. And describe your average day routines slash rituals.
Well, I work from home, so I have a very short commute. It's about 50 steps from my bedroom to my office.
Yes. So it's
So,
fine.
yep, I like to really focus on my well being. And so I have a ritual in the morning that I start out with meditation. The meditation might be guided, it might be just with the Insight app, or I might just be using a mantra over and over again that keeps me centered and focused. If I'm really, really present, I could just be in the moment. But sometimes I find that a little challenging depending on all the stuff that's going on, especially right now when we're in such a heightened time of concern and worry and lockdown, quarantine that's going on. But after I do the meditation, I might do some writing. And then I spend some time with my dog. We go for a nice walk around our property. And then I get to work, which really consists of a cup of coffee, a little breakfast, and mostly I work online and on the phone. So I do that throughout the day. And because I work from home, I get to make my own schedule. So during the week, it's most of it is working either with clients or future clients, helping support them through whatever they need. And in the evening, I spend time with my husband or I'll go to events. So it's really wonderful that I get to create my own schedule. I've worked in lots of different jobs, and you know how a job is. They tell you when to show up, when you can leave. You have to ask
Yeah.
permission to go to the bathroom sometimes, right?
Yes.
So I really do love the freedom of being able to make my own schedule. I am a hard worker. I am very self-motivated and I'm achievement oriented. I learned that from generations of my family. So I do work hard, but that's a choice because I really do enjoy my work.
Yes, as they say, now if you are doing something you love, like being a full-time podcaster or supporting clients, and I woke up awesome, you will never have to go to work a day in your life again.
That's right. That's right. I love that you are taking on being a full-time podcaster. I would love to hear what you had to face in yourself to really come to that decision.
Well, with all that was going on um, right now, I have been on lockdown, shelter in place mode, as they call it. I have been in shelter in place mode since um, since March 9th. And the reason why I say March 9th is because I was lucky enough, and I say lucky enough, to go to Orlando, Florida, and spend a week down there with a bunch of incredible podcasters at Podfest who really embraced me and loved me and basically showed me the ropes a little bit. And I educated myself as a better podcaster and as a better journalist and as a better um, friend and as a better confidant. And then I flew home, and I knew myself and my aide, were flying back into. And I just thought, okay, since we're flying back into this interesting show, and I won't insert that begins with a S, I'll just call it interesting. But I thought, okay, since we're flying back home to this interesting show, I am going to put myself in self isolation.
Mm.
And now this is before the shelter in place mode kicked in all across the country. This is before schools were closed. This is before everything else. And in I guess it was in September, I felt in my heart there was going to be a shift in the universe. So I said to my stepmom, and I said to my aide who was with me at the time, I said, I don't want to go skiing. And they both respected my decision. And I could not tell you why that answer came out of my mouth, but they thought that it was grief because just lost my father in May. Thank
Oh,
you
I'm so
very much.
sorry.
And so they thought it was grief. Well, it turns out that I'm so intuitive that I knew that something was going to lock the wall, and I didn't know what. And so I thought about it when I flew home. I'm like, okay, I'm going to now put myself in self quarantine. And then I emailed my work, and my work said, well, we don't really have a plan yet put in place, and because we're on spring break. But we agree with you that the self isolation is the best. And granted, I'm a teacher, but I'm no dummy. I am smart cookie. Smart cookie. I listen to the news every single morning via my Amazon smart speaker. And so I knew that the schools were closing across the country. I knew that schools were going online. I knew that everything was turning around. So I said to them, bye, guys. You're going to lose a teacher. You're going to lose a diversity advocate. You're going to lose a person that really wanted to teach kids about diversity, but I feel like I'm doing it even bigger and better on a louder stage via my podcast.
It's a big decision that you made, and I can really feel that the decision came from your heart, that it was one that you felt led to. And I think
Yeah,
those are the best kind. I've
yeah,
spent a lot of time in my life honing my inner guide, my gut feelings. Sometimes I've sought outside counsel from whether it be angel cards or people who seem to be very intuitive like yourself. But I know, just like you, that the answers are inside me. And so I love that you listen to that inner voice and you allow it to guide you, because I think that people who do that, they end up having the best outcomes possible.
and people knew that I was going to quit my job anyway. They did not know that I was going to quit my job in the midst of coronavirus. But I figured since I had the opportunity to make the leap of faith, cut the golden chains of the 9 to 5 job, even though my job was part time, I figured I might as well do it now.
This is a perfect time. I mean, there are so many things in transition and in flux that, and no time like the present, right? When you're ready, that's the
Nope,
time.
nope. And so I feel honored and I feel blessed that I was able to do it. Now, granted, if I have to go back to work, I will go back to work. But I have a secret plan that if push comes to shove, I will implement my secret plan. But for right now, I'm a solo entrepreneur.
That's wonderful. Feels good to be a solo entrepreneur, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, it does. Oh, yes, it does. Especially, especially this morning when you're recovering from a slight head injury and you don't have to call into your boss and say, I landed up in the emergency room
Yes,
yesterday. And
exactly.
what do I do now? And
Right.
yeah, so I'm like, okay, universe, you gave me a whack in the head. I give you the best I can today.
I surrender. I will
So
listen.
I surrender. I listen. You gave me the whack in the head. I will listen. I will do the best I can today.
That's right.
So if you, I have another question for you, Twista. If
Yes.
you had to move and only take 3 things, what would they be?
Well, I work remotely from my home. And so I figure if I have my computer, my phone, and my iPad, that I could set up shop anywhere and be back in business right away. I could be connected to my work. I could order anything I need online from my online site, and I can stay connected. I don't actually use my iPad for work, but I don't have an iPhone, and my iPad is my really wonderful way to stay connected to most of my family who have iPhones. So it allows me to stay in touch with my sister from New York City. Over this coronavirus thing, we've been cooking together. She's cooking in her place, I'm cooking in mine. We have meals together. My other sister, she has 2 kids, so I get to see them and hang out with them. So the iPad would be to keep me connected to my family in like a really visual way. But with my computer and phone, I could be up and running, back in business, fully clothed and furnished and food in no time at all.
Yeah, yes, yes. And now I was going to say the iPad, the iPad is a wonderful tool. I was going to say now, if you look in the App Store and if you look in the Google Play Store, those of you on Android, yes, I say my Android listeners because I don't want to single you guys out, but these lists are popping up now because of you know what, and they're saying apps that will keep you productive, apps that you can use, games, apps that you can learn,
That's great.
apps that everything else. So just go take a sneak peek in the App Store or the Google Play Store just so you can have an understanding of what's going on. Because this week I made a promise to myself, and this week, and I'm succeeding at it, um, to stay away from the news because I think the reason why I wasn't listening to the universe, now I have to because they gave me what they gave me yesterday. But the
Mhm.
reason why I wasn't listening to the universe is because I was so concentrated on the news as a journalist, as a student of journalism, slash as a self-taught journalist. I was making sure that every news outlet was on my Facebook, was on my Twitter, was on everything else. And then it landed up, the universe said, nope, you need to slow down. And so I've been conscious not to listen to news. So for those of you that want to hang out on social media, be my guest. But for those of you that don't, just take your mind off something. As Trisha said, do meditations, do anything you can to lower the anxiety level, lower the stress level, lower, because how are we going to be compassionate humans if we don't lower the lower of all anxiety? I mean, after the 9/11, we freaked out, and trust me, I sat through 9/11, and 9/11 wanted me to go back to journalism school. And we did that well, and we survived that. And so I would think that if we try and lower the low of the anxiety level right now, it doesn't, it will help.
Well, you're so right, Win, because everybody that I'm working with is in all different levels of capability when it comes to technology. Of course, we all know how to use our cell phones, but things like Zoom, conference calling, live streaming, screen sharing, all these different things that are now needed and wanted for the remoteness of our lives to stay connected. So I love what you're saying about these app stores offering things specific to productivity and all these other things, because it's really going to help people figure out how to navigate this new normal, which, while it may be temporary, it's now and there is only now. So we have to figure out how to work it out. I know I've been on with people supporting them on how to use Zoom. I've used Zoom for probably a couple of years now, but there are some people that they're being forced to learn it and they're nervous and scared because it's just a new technology and the unknown is very scary on top
Yes.
of all the other things that we're dealing with and people are concerned about. So I know I've been trying to help people get, used to and facile with the technology. So I love that there are so many resources to help people do that, and that the app stores are trying to help people make it easier to find stuff. That's great.
And I could also help you guys, those of you that are listening, and think, okay, I need to learn how to listen to a podcast. If you guys want to jump on the Zoom call with me, or if you guys want to jump on a Skype call with me, or if you want to jump on WhatsApp, and I have literally taken people's phones and literally showed them what a podcast is. And Trisha and I are at great advantage because we have the modalities of a podcast, and a lot of people don't.
That's right. Absolutely. I love that you're offering that. I think we all need to do whatever we can to support each other in gaining new skills and getting comfortable in areas that are unknown.
Yeah. So my last and final question for you, and then you can ask me a couple questions, is if your close friend wrote a book about your life, what would the title be, and what would it be about? What would the title be, and what would it be about?
Well, it's so funny because I was thinking about that, and I think that probably it would be called I Am Awesome, You Are Awesome, Vanity License Plates Are Awesome. I actually have people who take pictures of license plates now and send me texts, and the text says "Thinking of you," and it's a picture.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And for those of you that don't know what Trish is talking about, let's give an educational lesson. You can actually go to the DMV now, and I believe most states do this in the US, and get your favorite word on your license plate. So that's a brief synopsis of what a vanity plate is, and I believe you can do it internationally too.
That's right. Absolutely.
So for those of you who are like, what? You just spoke French. There's the educational lesson of this podcast. There's the educational lesson of this podcast. What exactly a vanity plate is.
Yes, exactly. I love that. Thank you because I just figured everybody knows. So I appreciate that you make sure.
It took me many years to figure it out myself because I don't drive. I'm always I don't drive due to my cerebral palsy. And so I'm always in the passenger seat. And many years ago, I had to ask, I think it was my dad actually, what's that word on the back of a license plate? Because I'm used to seeing numbers. Used to seeing I'm used to seeing everything else. And
Yes.
then when I published my book, he explained it to me as a young child. But then when I published my book, Vanity Press, Vanity Press, self-publishing, I put two and two together. I'm like, Vanity words.
Yes.
Hey,
I got
vanity
it.
words on the back of the license plate. Now I get that. So there's the educational lesson to you guys.
I love it.
The educational lesson. I try to implement educational lessons nowadays in the Ask When podcast. So if you had any questions for me, what would they be?
Well, I would love to ask you a couple of questions that I ask my guests when I do my Plate Story podcast, because, of course, we're going to talk about the license plate. And of course, we're going to talk about the story behind the plate. But I want the podcast to have a little bit more meat about the person so we can get to know them. So one of the questions that I love to ask, that I'd like to ask you, is what do you attribute your success in life to?
Well, this is going to sound cheesy as I'll get out, but my legal name is Win. And when a lot of people meet me, and I am working on a very special interview in the next couple months, we're going to say, and you're going to meet someone that's hiding behind the scenes of my life right now. And she definitely wants to come on the podcast, knows that I have this podcast, but we're working it out. So basically, my success in my own life is my winning attitude. And a lot of that comes from, okay, I have cerebral palsy. Okay, I got whacked in the head. What's next? So a lot of, I mean, the nurses and the doctor on call yesterday was so, and this happened the 22nd of March, by the way. It's the 23rd of March. And the doctor on call was so shocked that I was still lucid and I could remember the thing. And it's like, hello? I just want in and out. I just want to make sure I'm fine, in and out, and leave me alone. But
Yeah.
but it's so funny because I've been in and out of hospitals, even though hospitals scare me. I've been in and out of hospitals 2 million times now, and so just another day in the life of CP. Go to the ER to make sure I'm okay, but that's I think that the doctors and the nurses were all shocked that I was still up. I could move, I could talk, I could, even though I could sign a date 2019, I was just angry because I was in there and I didn't want to get, what's going on right now.
Sure.
So and the pointless. She looks at me and says, 2019? And I'm like, oops, let me do that. I know what date it is. I'm not that. I'm not that. I'm not that great that I don't know what date it is. But I'm like, oopsies. No, I was very careful. And so, um, but I think what leads to my success in life is my winning attitude.
I love that because that's your name.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Carry on to
You can
my
never
life.
forget.
No, you can't. Never forget.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
Um, you said that's your given name. Do you know the story behind why your parents chose that name for you?
I do know the story, and I unfortunately the first win, which is my paternal grandmother on my mom's side, passed away, and I was lucky enough to spend many, 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 many hours with my paternal grandmother on my mom's side.
Mm-hmm.
Mom and she were very, 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 very close. And unfortunately, because of her age and I believe her dementia at the time, they did not tell my grandmother that my mom had died in 2010. And
Wow.
grandma was still kicking. Grandma
Mm-hmm.
died of a heart attack in her own home. She knew what was exactly going on, even though um, even though she had dementia and Alzheimer's at the end. And so, and the reports I got back from when she was passing away is my heart feels funny. Now, granted, Grandma was a nurse to begin with up in Canada. So if that says anything to you guys, um, Grandma knew what was going on, even though she had dementia and Alzheimer's.
Sure.
And so when um, my mom named me, obviously she wouldn't name me after her mom, and I didn't find this out. My grandmother's name originally was Pauline Winifred, and then she actually changed it to Winifred Pauline. And I'm
Oh.
like, okay. And then she decided, and it's her quote, not mine. So here's Big Wind's quote. My name is Too Funny Duddy, and I'll shorten it to Win. Thank you very much. WIN. And so that's what stuck. And so big win and little win. And yeah, and so that's what stuck.
I love it.
And so, yeah, my biological mom named me after her mom. And of course, yeah, I get Lynn, I get WYN, and I get W. Ugh, I'm surprised I spelled my name at the hospital correctly yesterday, and I am surprised I got it. But they did because I was already in the system. But that's my biological name, and that's my story, and I'm sticking
I
to
love
it.
it. That's a great story. And, when you introduce yourself, you can say win because I always win. And that's how you spell it.
Yeah, yeah, I'll just win maybe like the Oakland Raiders who are now on a lockdown. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And so yeah, so that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that little bit of your history and about your family a little bit. I appreciate that.
Oh yes.
Well, that's wonderful. So would you like me to, I have more questions. I can keep going.
Yeah, I would actually.
Good. Well, I'd love to know what you do to stay motivated, especially with everything you're doing with your podcast and your writing. Those are all very self-generated kinds of projects and industries. What do you do to keep going, even if you don't feel like it?
Like today, even if I don't feel like it, like today I want to lie down and see a pillow, although I can't. But
Yeah, like today.
like today, I I tend to listen to music. I tend to um, listen to podcasts. I tend to just center myself. I mean, up at I was up at 5 doing a meditation with a friend of mine on the East Coast because, and she knew I got whacked in the head too. And she said, because of the work at home environment, Jessica, my friend on the East Coast, set up all this via Zoom. She brought in Kundalini, I believe, Kundalini yoga teacher, and the yoga teacher gave us, all of us who were there, um, it was myself, Jessica, and the yoga teacher. And it's going on throughout this week, you guys, including Thursday when this episode comes out. So just go find it on Facebook. And she's actually recorded it. And so she goes last night, Win, why don't you come to this center yourself um, before we get today started? And I'm like, okay, I need to center myself, so I tend to use meditation apps. I tend to listen to music. I tend to, um, if I really have to do it, I tend to use my support system via phone. Yeah, so that's how I keep myself going.
I love that. You mentioned music, and that is such a key for me as well. I have a few different playlists that I have set up in advance. One is specifically for self-love, just to remind myself that it's a good day and positive attitude, and I'm awesome, and you're awesome, and we're all awesome. But I use music to get myself motivated, to get in the mood, to clear out anxiety or upset. So I love that you said that you use music to kind of reset yourself, because I think that that's such a great tool to use.
Yeah, they've done studies with, and I believe that they've done studies with Alzheimer's, cerebral palsy, dementia, traumatic brain injuries, which I know I have two of them, one more recent than the others, but they've done studies on music and how it changes the psyche.
For sure. I would not be surprised to hear that at all. Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah. That's one of my key things.
That's great. Do you use music that is very upbeat, uplifting? What kind of
I
music?
am exposed to it all. I am, I, well, because I'm doing a paper on the movie The Princess Bride. I have the soundtrack
Oh,
playing. Thank you very much, because I am doing analysis on the Princess Bride right now, and so I have the soundtrack playing, and I my dad was a professional sound mixer for many, many years, worked with Bob Dylan, Neil Diamond, John Denver, the Pink Floyd. Um, and so he really influenced music in my life. I mean, I was listening to adult music as a child, basically.
mm.
Adult music as a child. Let's just put it that way. So me and the kids' music, me and Buddy the dinosaur, don't get along. And so it's like, yeah, adult music as a child. Yeah, so I, when I say I'm exposed to it all, I've been exposed um, to it all through my dad, who I recently lost. In the back of this, we would go to the Centerville. I'm looking at a big, giant sound rack, and now I have to get it fixed because music was an integral part of his life and my life included. So yeah, give me music and give me mantras, and then that's how I kept myself going yesterday when I was getting my head bandaged up enough to go to the hospital. The
Yeah.
mantra I kept repeating as I was dealing with blood and people were dealing with me, and ugh, I was the mantra I kept repeating is I'm strong, I'm beautiful, I'm confident, and that's what got me through to from the time the injury happened, which was at 5:55 a.m. Um,
Mm.
Mountain Standard Time, to the time I went to the ER, which was about 9 a.m. And
Wow.
so, and, yeah, because um, every even though the cut itself was little, it bled a lot. It
Oh,
just ugh, because because I got whacked in the head, and so it just so I had to, and I was concentrating. I was actually in a dark room. I had minimal to no lights on. Yeah, but I had to keep that mantra going just so I could keep myself calm, just so I wouldn't start um throwing a hissy fit because I was scared. I was not the happiest camper yesterday when
yeah.
I realized what had happened, and I'm like, okay, mantra, visions, and yeah, and then the aspects of the blue light. I'm like, ugh, yikes, that's another scary thing in itself. So I use mantras, I use visions, and stayed away from the community yesterday.
Well, I love that you're talking about mantras. I have a mantra that I repeat that has made a huge difference for me. It was gifted to me, and I would love to gift it to you and your listeners. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that would be perfectly fine.
Okay, great. So this is the mantra, and it's something you say to yourself and as many times as you can throughout the day. It goes like this: I believe I deserve all the best life has to offer, and I was created with the ability to achieve it.
And that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. And Trisha, where can people find you, and where could people get a hold of you if they choose to become online entrepreneur, and because they might like this commute of walking stairs, and I know I certainly like it. I know you certainly like it.
That's right.
So let's change the world a little bit and start shaking the trees.
Absolutely. Yeah. So where I can be found is my website, iwokeupawesome.com. And of course, my podcast, you can catch that there, but you can get there directly through platestory.com. And of course, plate is spelled with an 8, PL8 story.com.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So license plate and iwokeupawesome.com. And thank you so much, Trisha, for coming on. And because of technical difficulties, we're doing this via Zoom.
Yes. Thank you.
I might have to do more and more because Uber Conference decides to store his secret. Even though it works this morning, it decided to store his secret this afternoon.
Yes.
So we just have to adapt, everyone.
That's right.
And as I said, I'm happy to come on Zoom calls and teach you guys how to subscribe to a podcast, just to lower the stress, just to because I know I have friends in the education sector, and they're saying, "Oh boy, now we have to teach online." And I know mummies and daddies want to get away, and so podcast or music is the best way to do it. And so it's like, oh boy, times they are changing. Bob Dylan quote. I just thought I would throw that in there. The times they are changing.
I love it.
And so it's like, oh boy. So reach out to me if you guys want to learn how to subscribe to a podcast. And of course, those of you who are listening to this know that skill, but send people my way that need help. And also subscribe to Trisha's podcast as well. And we're making this world a better place for you guys. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks so much, Wynn. Thanks, everybody.
You just listened to Ask Wynn, the podcast. To become a guest in the show, visit our website at askwyn.weebly.com or call 816-591-3399. Just look for Danielle. Connect with Wynn on Twitter at Wynn Kelly Charles and like our Facebook page at Butterflies of Wisdom. You can also purchase Wynn's book through Amazon.com or get a copy of the audiobook through Audible. Ask Wynn, the podcast.